April 13th. We've got quite the card in store for us, y'all. So, just to start off here, I'm just going to preface this by saying that I think UFC 300 is a great card. I think it's getting a lot of hate just because it's UFC 300. There's a high stakes for it. So, people want there could always be a better fight for a big event. It was the same thing with 200. I'm sure at UFC 100 it was the same kind of deal. But if this were any other event at any other time, this would be considered a stacked card, no doubt about it. And I think it'll be great for UFC 300. I think in the past, with UFC 200, when there was too much hype, too many good fights, I think it was almost like bad luck for the event. So the fact that to some people this might not seem as appealing might be a good sign for it. We'll see what happens. Just starting off the card, we got Figueiredo versus Garbrandt. This is going to be just a prediction video for just the prelims, just to start off. And with that fight, I got Garbrandt by either knockout. No, let's go with knockout. No decision on this one. I think based off of Figueiredo's debut fight in bantamweight, I don't feel like he looked that impressive for like as a top 10 guy. It looked like he was kind of slowing down there, especially towards the end. And Garbrandt, on the other hand, despite having a very rough downhill streak for a while, looked incredible in his last fight, and he's looking really crisp with his boxing and his defense. I know he's in a new camp now. He's not an alpha male anymore. Maybe that could be the reason. But so I'm going to go with Garbrandt here by knockout. I think he's just going to stay more crisp. I think he's too fast for Figueiredo, and I think that bantamweight power might be too much for the former flyweight champ. Moving on here, we got Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. I'm very torn on this fight. I was watching some, tape back just to get a good prediction here, just to make sure I wasn't being biased at all. And based off of both of their last few fights, it's still very hard to say. When I was watching Jim Miller versus Alex Hernandez, one thing that he did really well was he just fought like he fought really hard. There's no quit in Jim Miller at all. And he showed that in the Hernandez fight as well as plenty of other fights in the UFC. When he gets hit hard, he keeps coming, and he had Alex even in trouble at some points there. And I would argue he even won the fight back in that time. And so a great fight. I think he did a lot of things well. He landed his kicks very well. His boxing has looked better and better, especially recently. It's been crazy to watch him have this like surgence of like power all of a sudden so late in his career, when earlier on it didn't really look like he had it. But it's been incredible to watch for Jim. But for Bobby Green, though, I think he presents some problems for Jim. One of the problems for Jim in that Alex fight was that he gets hit a lot. Like, he doesn't move his head very well. And that's like right up Bobby Green's alley. He loves having that advantage in a fight. That hands down strategy. And then once they come in, he backs up, jab straight, all that good stuff. And he did it very well against Dawson. He couldn't get it done against Turner. I just thought that was a terrible matchup for Bobby. But I do think it's important to note that fight. It doesn't feel like that was that long ago, and he got knocked out really, really bad, where he was eating several unanswered shots, which the fight should have been stopped way earlier. Could have stopped off with the first blow on the feet, but instead the ref let it continue on, which I think was really damaging to Green's longevity. Hopefully it's not, but I think it was. But nonetheless, I'm going to have to go with Bobby Green by decision. I think Jim Miller will do some damage, but I think ultimately Bobby's going to get into a rhythm like he did in the Tony Ferguson fight. He's going to find his range well. He's going to land those jab straights. I don't think he's going to finish Jim, though. I think Jim's too tough, but I do think he'll get it done by decision. Moving on, we had Jessica Andrade versus Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Andrade here. I just think it's a safer pick, absolutely. In the past and even presently now, Andrade has been a tank in whatever division she's fought in, except maybe, I guess, bantamweight. Moves forward, goes for takedowns, slams people, and great ground game, good power on the feet. And I think she's just going to be too much for Rodriguez. I'll go for Andrade probably by a decision win. Just moving up now, we got Jalen Turner versus Hanato Moicano. And I'm very torn on this fight too. I recently just rewatched Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. First of all, amazing fight. Definitely would check it out if you can. And there was a lot of things he did well in that fight. Of course, his kicks are lethal. In a crowded arena, you could hear it like a baseball bat. And honestly, he's got a lot of heart in there. But this weight cut issue is a big problem. Um, that's just obvious. He's 6'3", 78-inch reach, and he's just way too big for the lightweight division. I don't think he's going to be able to make that weight class for much longer. Maybe a few more fights. Maybe he'll try to make a run at the title, but I think he's a future 170 guy, absolutely. And for Hanato, he's been on a tear and he's been fired up. He says he wants that title. He's hungry for it. And you really need that in this division, especially a division as stacked as lightweight. Um, I looked over some of Hanato's fights too, rewatched his Alex Hernandez fight, and I did see his fight with Drew Dober live. Um, he looked good in those fights. He did get caught by Dover a lot, but again, those two guys are very different from what a Turner would bring to the table. So it's really hard to say. I don't think this will be as easy of a fight for Turner to just control range on, just because Hanato is one of the taller guys in that weight class too. So, I think that I'm gonna go with Moicano by decision, mainly because of the gas tank issue. Turner gassed really badly against Dan Hooker. It's because of the weight cut, no doubt. And though Turner has a lot of power and he's shown it, I think that Moicano's ground game, that threat of the ground game, plus how his striking has been looking very crisp, very good. It looked great against Alexander Hernandez. I think that he could fare himself well enough on the feet to eventually get it to the ground and either finish the fight or just hold out for a decision win. So I'm going to go with Moicano on that one. Moving up, we got Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopez. This is another hard one, but I'm definitely going to go with Sadiq. Yeah. I watched Sadiq's fight against who was it against? I'll remember in a second. But his only issue in the fight that I saw was that he kind of coasted towards the end. But other than that, it was a great performance. He's got very good boxing skills. He hits very hard. He's got a nasty jab. Oh, Andre Fili, that's who he was fighting, and he's got a nasty jab. And I saw Lopez's debut fight, and it was a hard night for him. I just think that Yusuf could get it done. I think Lopez looked a little bit reckless, and I think the Gavin Tucker fight it was. And I just think that that's going to be a problem for him. I think he's going to get caught coming in with something, and I think Sadiq's going to get it done. Though Lopez, he is tough though, so it's kind of hard to say, but for now, let's go with Sadiq Yusuf by knockout. Moving on, we got Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. I'm going to have to go with Holly Holm on this one. I'm kind of an old head when it comes to a lot of these fighters, and I know Harrison was, a big champ in, I think, the PFL. But I think the UFC stage is different, and I think Holly's experience being at the top of her divisions for such a long time is what's going to pay off here. I also saw that she was training with Chris Cyborg a lot as well, who I think was either slated to fight or had fought Harrison before. It might have just been scheduled. I don't know if they fought, but That's definitely a cool person to have in your corner for any fight, regardless. So I'm going to go with Holly Holm by decision here. Moving on, we got Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. This fight's another tough one. Kattar hasn't looked the greatest in his past few fights. Um, but he does train with Rob Font. They have similar styles. And, he's got great boxing skills. He does get hit a lot though. Especially in the Arnold Allen fight that I recently rewatched. And with Sterling, it's a lot of pressure for him. It's his first fight at featherweight, and he's been used to the bantamweight scene for a long time. The weight cut just got to be too much for him. But with all that being said, I think that Sterling, if this division is right for him and he's strong enough here and he's not out of shape, not that he ever was, but just, moving up a weight class, you always have to ask that question. I think Sterling could get it done by either a decision or a submission. We'll say the safe bet and we'll go with Sterling by decision. Now, to finish off the prelims, we got a big fight in the light heavyweight division. Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. Another big fight. It's kind of weird seeing Prochazka and Pereira on the same card, considering that fight really wasn't that long ago. And Pereira won by knockout while Prochazka was knocked out. So I don't know if it was the best idea for Prochazka to get in so soon, especially on the same card as Pereira. But nonetheless, the fight is here, and Rakic is coming off of that injury that he sustained against Jan Blachowicz, that knee injury, unfortunate knee injury. You just got to be careful with Jan Blachowicz's leg kicks, man. Those leg kicks and those leg checks have brutalized people, especially Magomed Ankalaev. Don't kick that guy's legs, definitely. And as for this fight, I'm going to have to go with Prochazka here, probably by decision. Rakic, one of his issues in the Blachowicz fight, he fought very well. It was very competitive. But the problem with him in that fight was he did get hit a lot. Blachowicz, he did have this one combination that he was going to over and over again. I believe it was like a left hook to the body, a straight right hand to the head, and then usually he would finish off with a body kick or a head kick. He loved that combination in that fight, and knowing Blachowicz, he probably game planned it, and his team, saw it in Rakic's previous fights that was an opening there. Blachowicz always has very good game plans. Not to get onto a side tangent here, but if you look at his fight with Dominic Reyes, he knew that Reyes always threw a punch off of the clinch break, and he was immediately ready to slip it once they were breaking off in the clinch. Just thought that was worth mentioning. Blachowicz always seems to have a really good game plan with his camp. And as for this fight, though, Prochazka versus Rakic, I think Prochazka is going to catch him a lot, especially with how elusive he tends to be with his striking. He's got those weird uppercut angles where he kind of dips his head first. Those punches come at weird angles and they come out of nowhere. And once you think he's out of position, he's throwing a spinning elbow or a spinning back fist. Very unpredictable. And Rakic couldn't seem to get Blachowicz's timing down when it came to a lot of those punches. He got hurt like twice in that fight, like kind of stung. I think the same thing's going to happen here against Prochazka. The only question is with Prochazka that would jeopardize his chances in this fight would be the fact that he was KO'd by Alex Pereira. So, not even that long ago now, just at the end of 2023. So it's a risk taking a fight this soon, especially against a powerful guy like Rakic. But I still think Prochazka has what it takes to get it done. He's a former champion, of course, and I think he's going to get it done by decision here. So that was it for the UFC 300 prelim predictions. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have any doubts about my picks or if you think someone else is going to win, definitely let me know. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, pretty soon, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few days, we'll have these UFC 300 main card predictions coming up soon. All right, have a great night.